Good morning everyone and welcome back. It's really good to see you all. It feels like such a long time since we were all under one roof, so today's a really special day. The staff in school are pleased to see you and thankful that we can finally return. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our new Year 7 students. We hope that you settle in well and have a great first day. My advice to you today and for the coming weeks would be simple. If you're not sure of anything, just ask. Now Year 11's top of the school. You've now got less than a year left with us, and before you know it, you'll be picking up your GCSE results, just like last year's Year 11s did a couple of weeks ago. Now, we know that some of you were possibly concerned about feeling a little bit rusty. Our message to you is that we're all in this together, and we will work it out. We've got plans to help get every single one of you exactly where you need to be, and we will do just that if you work with us. Now, we know that the scenario that we've faced in recent months has been difficult. And we're also aware that every single person in this building, staff and students, may have had a different experience, which was unique to their own situation. We hope that there's been some positives for you somewhere along the line, but I will say now that it's not only the academic side of things and the learning that we're here to help you with. It is understandable that people may have found recent circumstances quite difficult. And if you're in a position where you feel that you need some help with how you're feeling, please do speak up and let somebody know. So school at the minute may not feel like the school that you left back in March. The restrictions in place mean that the courtyard is sectioned into areas. The school day differs for different year groups, and you'll be washing your hands a lot more, and your teacher will be staying at least 2 metres away from you. All of these things are really important, and they're in place for the sake of everybody's health. This is where every single person in the building simply has to be responsible for doing their part and following the guidelines that are in place. So let me go on to explain the courtyard in a bit more detail. You'll see a lot of yellow chevrons. These are basically the yellow diagonally striped parts that divide each section. So when you arrive at the start of each day, much like you probably did this morning, you'll walk past the green kiosk and along the walkway. At the back of the courtyard, this is the section between the yellow line, the final yellow line furthest away from school, and the wall where the figure of 8 is. There's a one-way system in place on the courtyard, so please try not to go the wrong way. As you walk back along, you'll see the colours. So as you walk along that back section, you'll see the coloured arrows that represent the coloured blocks. So when you see the arrows that are the same colour as the block that you're in for that day, you can turn left and start entering that section by moving towards the school building. You're not allowed to walk on the chevrons, because what that would mean is that you'd be getting too close to a different year group and a different bubble. Please be aware that if you are in the red block, you'll use the figure of 8. So you've probably heard that phrase that I've just used, bubbles. And the idea behind bubbles is that it limits the amount of different people we come into contact with, making it safer for everyone. All schools are using year group bubbles. This means that you will come into contact with students within your year group, and by contact, I mean you'll be in the same classes and corridors and courtyard with. I don't mean physical contact by physically touching them. This should be avoided. In lessons, you'll be sat facing forward rather than facing each other. This is deemed to be the safest approach for all, so please don't start turning around and talking to the people behind you. Your teacher and all the adults in school will remain at least 2 metres away from you, so please do not go closer than that to them. Each bubble or year group will be taught in the same block for the entire day, and you will only be able to use the toilets in that block. There's a bit less movement from day to day, block to block, with the Year 7s and Year 8s as the week goes on, because your blocks are fairly consistent. But your teacher will be showing you a timetable shortly of where you are each day. Now, you don't need to worry too much if you can't memorise all of that, because there'll be a reminder on display boards around school, that are around the building, on the outside of the building, and there's also one on the sports hall as you enter in a morning through the black gate. Now, for the benefit of Year 7s, each block is a different colour, and you will mostly be in the blue block, except for Wednesdays when you're in the red block. As I've mentioned earlier, the school day is different for different year groups. Period 1 and period 5 are the only periods that are the same for everyone. Breaks and lunch times are staggered, and both last for 30 minutes. We can't stress the importance of thoroughly washing your hands before eating anything and before returning back to class. It really will limit the chances of people becoming ill if we are all washing our hands regularly. Just on that note, as well as washing, you'll notice that there are some sanitising stations on the way into the blocks. Please use those as frequently as you can. Okay, back to breaks and lunch times then. Certain year groups will be on break and lunch at the same time, but this will not apply to more than 2 year groups at a time. You will not be able to mix with that other year group or leave your permitted area. Now, 1 year group will spend the first 15 minutes of their allocated break or lunch in the refectory, whilst the other year group is in an area on Courtyard. After 15 minutes, they will swap without crossing over, and that's obviously just to make sure that people don't mix. Your teacher will show you the priority order in terms of sittings on the PowerPoint shortly. Okay, so what I mean by that is, I mean which year group is in the refectory first. Okay, in addition to your teacher showing you this information, it's also up on the notice boards which are outside each block. If your year group is in the refectory during sitting 1, you'll use the exit door when you leave, which is nearest to the red block. Okay, because what we don't want is people using different doors. When your time in the refectory is up, your designated area then will be between the final yellow line and the figure of 8, so you've got all that area to use. Okay, what we don't want is a year group disturbing lessons just because of the noise level, because what we've got to remember is there'd be quite a lot of students, all 3 other year groups, that will still be on lesson time in this side of the building with windows open. Okay, so inside the refectory then, when you do go in, you'll notice that the layout of the tables is very different to what it was. It's now split into 2 halves of 2 long rows. All of the chairs are facing in the same direction. It's crucial that they aren't moved. So under no circumstances does anybody sit on the other side where the chairs aren't. All students must face the same way when they're eating and drinking. Okay. It's also crucial that students sit on the coloured tables that have the right colour for the block that they're in on that day. So if you're in red block and there are a set of red sort of little circles on your table, that's where you'll sit. There will be other colours on other tables. Please avoid them, because what it means that a year group have either just left and those tables are being cleaned, or a year group are about to sit on those or at those. There's a fairly simple system in place for when you want to leave the refectory, when your year group leaves the refectory. Okay, so there's a walkway down the middle of the room, and if you are sitting at the left-hand side of the room, the tables nearest the hatches where the servery is, you'll come down that middle channel to leave, and you'll exit through the door nearest the red block. If you're in the right-hand side of the refectory, so that's the refectory nearest the wall with the cutlery on, you'll walk right along that wall to leave. So there's 2 clear walkways to exit the refectory. For Year 7s, you do not have your student cards as of yet. Your teacher will soon be issuing you with a laminated temporary card, and you will need to keep these very safe. This card can be shown to the staff in the refectory when you purchase food or drink, and they will then deduct that money from your account. Okay, let's talk face coverings or masks. Recently, the government updated their advice on this subject where schools are concerned. Now, they've not said that face masks have to be worn in schools. In areas where transmission of the virus is quite high, face coverings should be worn by adults and pupils in secondary schools when moving around the school, in communal areas such as corridors and courtyards. That's areas where social distancing is difficult to maintain. This doesn't apply to lessons. So if we do get a situation where people are wanting to wear masks, because you can, if you wish, that's at your choice, this doesn't apply in lessons. So we won't be wearing masks in lessons. Thankfully though, this doesn't apply to our area at the time because our transmission rate isn't an area that's deemed to be high. Now your parents or carers will have received information via a letter about this subject. And again, within this letter, we've stated that if you feel more comfortable wearing a mask, this should be plain and with no logo, and this should be used sensibly. Any misuse will result in the student being asked to remove the mask. School buses. The arrangements are as follows. You must sit in your year group bubbles with year 11 at the back, moving to year 7s at the front of the bus. Face coverings must be worn by all students on buses. So please put these on as you leave your period 5 lesson. You must sit facing forwards on the buses at all times and not turn around and talk to others. Any student without a bus pass will be asked to pay a fee of £1 and the drivers will not give any change. You should sanitise your hands upon entry to the bus and on leaving the bus. And you shouldn't touch anything that doesn't belong to you. At the end of the school day, departure times will be staggered for students depending on the block that you've been learning in that day. So you'll be released at 3-minute intervals. The blue block will be released at 5 to 3, purple at 2 minutes to 3, yellow block at 1 minute past 3, green block at 4 minutes past 3, and red block at 7 minutes past 3. Your tutor will escort you down towards the exit, the black gates, at the end of the day, just in front of the sports hall. If you are walking home rather than catching a bus, the only way that you can leave the school on foot is via the pedestrian entrance rather than going up to the gate past where the buses are. The fire alarm. If the fire alarm goes off, you must line up in your bubble, in class groups, quietly in the section of the courtyard which is linked to the block that you've been working in for that day. You should line up as close to the usual assembly point as possible, while still remaining in your designated area and avoiding mixing bubbles. So please do not go over the chevrons. Curriculum Plus. As most of you will be aware, we do run a wide range of enrichment activities through our Curriculum Plus programme. We intend to offer a modified version of this in year group bubbles with activities rotating so that you can access lots of different activities over time. And we'll look to get this up and running in about 3 weeks' time before the end of the month. Should you need to book onto the late bus for any reason, you can do so by sending an email to latebus@bolsover.derbyshire.sch.uk. But you do need to state why it is that you are staying. This information has also been in a letter that has gone home to parents and carers, and it's also on our school website. The final bit of information is mainly for anyone who is new to the school. It's about how to get to the relevant room on your timetable. So you'll have a room code on your timetable, and it's written in a way that tells you what block you're in, whether you're on the ground floor or the first floor, and what number room you're in. Now the rooms along each corridor, each section of the corridor, are numbered like streets. So the odd numbers are all on one side, the even are all on the other, with the even side being the side closest to the courtyard. So if you're in PG2, you're in the purple block, so that's P for purple. The G stands for ground floor, so you're downstairs, and the number is obviously room 2. So all you need to do is find room 2 in that area. Any rooms that are upstairs have an F in them. That's to indicate that they're on the first floor. So finally then, all these changes are new for staff and students. So students, you're not on your own in this. Getting used to these changes as a result of COVID will take time. And if you've got any questions or feel that you need further support, you can ask any member of staff that's in your bubble. Have a great day.